Hi everyone, I'm Corbin and this is Plant Basics. Today we are going to be talking about how I care for my Alocasia Dragon Scale. Alocasia Dragon Scale is a gorgeous alocasia and it's actually quite easy to care for if some of its needs are met. Alocasia Dragon Scale likes bright filtered light. Being a forest plant, it's adapted to growing in the shade of the canopy. So if you can give your plant bright filtered light with no direct sunlight, it should be very happy. Also note that if you grow your plant in diminished light, you'll probably see the petioles start to elongate and stretch towards the light, which could make your plant look um, unattractive. So really a bright position close to an east or north facing window would be great for your plant. My plant is exposed to some early morning sun coming through a slatted blind, and I haven't seen any sunburn patches on the leaves. So yeah, I would definitely keep away from the hot midday sun. Correct watering is really important when it comes to alocasia health. They don't like to stand in water, and I always make sure that I empty out the drip tray every time I will water my plant. There's this misconception that alocasias likes to stand in water because I think people confuse them with colocasias, which are the ones that you often see growing in ponds. But alocasias you'll generally find in the wild on the banks of streams and not in the water itself. So yeah, it's always good to know that your plant must not stand in any water. I let my potting soil dry out to about half the pot before I will water my plant again, because I'm extremely scared of root rot. Alocasia Dragon Scale does have some water storing capacity. So it does have a tuber, it does have quite fleshy leaves and stems. So it does have a capacity to store water. So drying out slightly in between watering does not present a big problem for this plant. Their roots are prone to root rot, and signs of root rot could be that your leaves are starting to turn a yellow. It can also be if you see black mushy patches on the stem coming up from the soil. Those could all be signs of root rot. In severe cases of root rot, you might also find that your plant wilts completely because all the roots have died off and now it has no way to bring moisture up to the leaves. If you suspect that your plant might have root rot, it's best to take it out of its pot and inspect the roots. And if you find that any of them are mushy and black, it's best to cut them off and to also take off some of the soil around the roots and inspect what's happening to the tuber. Because as long as the tuber is fine and the tuber hasn't started to rot, your plant can still be saved. Other factors that might lead to root rot could be if you grow your plant in diminished light and there's excess water in the potting media. Because now what's happening is that your plant is not photosynthesizing and using up the moisture that's in the growing media. And what could happen now is that that moisture sits there and it doesn't get used, it doesn't go anywhere, and it starts to rot the roots of your plant. In my experience with this plant, it's always best to underwater than to overwatering because you can recover from underwatering. Underwatering, what you're likely to see would be brown leaf tips on your plant, and your plant can also the growth can be slower and the leaves can be a bit smaller because it doesn't have the moisture that it needs to push out those leaves. But you can recover from that. Where if root rot starts to set in and that goes up to the stem, it might be that your plant is completely lost. So I've always maintained that giving less water is better than giving too much water. Alocasias love high humidity, so always have a humidifier ready, always have a spray bottle ready, whatever you can do to increase the humidity around your plant. In my experience, a humidifier is the best way because it's going to give you a constant increase with a constant increase in humidity. And humidity will also help prevent the biggest bane of my existence when it comes to alocasia care, and that is spider mites. I don't know how it's possible, but I've always seen spider mites on alocasias, and it doesn't matter if you spray them with insecticide, if you wipe the leaves, if you keep your plants separate, at some stage spider mites will occur. And why humidity is important is spider mites love dark, dry, and stagnant air. That's one of the best environments to be in. And this has been one of the things that I've always had this discussion with my husband, because he's like, no, he doesn't like the humidifier, I'll put on a fan. He's like, no, but the fan, it's cold. And yeah, but to prevent spider mites, you need the humidity, you need the air circulation, and you need the light. If you do think that you do have spider mites on your plant, it's best to spray your plant often with water, because they dislike that. It will also dislodge them from the leaves. You can also apply a insecticide. So you can either go the organic route or you can go like the chemical route. It's up to you. I've used chemicals and organics on my plants, so I like to have a mixed approach when it comes to spider mites, because I like to use an organic one to get rid of them, and I like to apply a systemic one to kind of act over a longer period of time. And with alocasias, it's best to apply your organic almost preventatively, on, let's say, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, spray a plant with neem oil, and that should, to an extent, help with the issue of spider mites. So alocasias love organic fertilizers. I love to apply a foliar feed on my plants, perhaps something like kelp or fish emulsion. Alternatively, you can also apply an organic fertilizer, a slow release fertilizer over the top of the soil. You can use balanced fertilizers, but I don't like using chemical ones because of the salt buildup. When repotting your alocasia, you want to use something that's well draining, has plenty of perlite or mold bark in it to really give you that aeration around the roots of your plants. I use a mixture with perlite and coco coir and worm castings, and this really is going to give you that drainage. And when repotting your plant, always go for a plant that's slightly bigger than the plant and the pot that your plant is in at the moment. A lot of people make the mistake of wanting to pot up too big, to go from a small pot to a big pot, thinking that the plant will grow faster, and this is often not the case. If your pot is too big and there's too much growing media in there, it means that it will hold on to a lot of moisture, and that could cause root issues down the line. So I'm actually going to repot this plant. It's been in this pot for quite a while. So it is fairly root bound. It does have the issue of some sunburn. I think it's got a little bit too much sun at some stage. So on this leaf there is a little sunburn. And it also has this, which I'm not quite sure what the cause of it is. I think it might be low humidity or it could be the fact that it was getting too much light, but I'm going for low humidity. But the other leaves seem to be fine. This leaf also had it. So yeah, I definitely think this could be a humidity issue. But if you have the dry tips on your plant, you can simply cut them off in the same kind of shape of it. Or if you want to, you could just take off the entire leaf. It's really up to you. I'll keep this leaf on because it's still holding on to some nutrients in here. Yeah, so I'm going to repot this plant, and yeah, so the pot I'm going to use is this one. So some might say it is too big, but it's not really. It's about, yeah, it's about what? The size two, I would actually say it's about a size up. Possibly 1.5, but if I judge this, it's not going to hold on to a lot of moisture because there's not a lot of potting soil that's gonna go in here. Yeah, so let's get started. So I'm gonna put some of this potting mix in the bottom of the pot. So to see, this plant has a very healthy root system. You can see the roots are nice and white. There's no dark or black patches on the roots. Yeah, I'm very happy with this. And if I show you at the bottom, you can see how root bound this plant actually has been. So it's been in dire need of a repot. If I pot this in here, you can see that it's at the right level. I'm going to leave a bit of a lip obviously around the side so I don't have any water run off. And now what I'm going to do is add in potting mix around the sides. Just gonna press down around the root ball. I'm just going to add in a little bit more on top and just even it around. When repotting your alocasia, never bury the stem of your plant. Always leave the soil level at the same level it was in the previous part of your plant. If you bury the stem, it could cause issues like stem rot, which does have the possibility of killing your entire plant. So always be careful not to bury the stem of your plant. And then, as with any new repotting, I'm going to give this a little bit of water to help settle the roots. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. And please subscribe and make sure to turn on the notification bell to make sure that you never miss any of my future videos. Bye.